Erik M. Conway, Merchants of Doubt: How a Handful of Scientists Obscured the Truth on Issues from Tobacco Smoke to Global Warming. In Merchants of Doubt: How a Handful of Scientists Obscured the Truth on Issues from Tobacco Smoke to Global Warming, Erik M. Conway offers insights into how a small group of scientists with political connections and a network of right-wing think tanks, corporations, and institutions distorted public debate on various issues, including tobacco smoke and global warming. At the heart of this group are physicists Frederick Seitz and S. Fred Singer, who, with little original research to their name, cherry-picked data and launched attacks on scientific findings and the reputations of fellow scientists. This introduction aims to set the tone for the user to explore the key strategies used by this group to spread misinformation, their political affiliations, and a detailed look at their involvement in controversies involving tobacco smoke, acid rain, ozone depletion, and global warming.
The dangerous intersection of science and politics. The book highlights how a small group of scientists with deep political connections distorted public debate for 4 decades. During the Cold War, physicists Frederick Seitz and S. Fred Singer became prominent backers of Ronald Reagan's Star Wars missile defense system. Their outspoken politics brought them into a network of right-wing think tanks, institutions, corporations, and political figures. Seitz worked for R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company, which provided $45 million for research against those suing Big Tobacco. Singer attacked the EPA's position on secondhand smoke, claiming it was harmless. In a report denying global warming, they were invited to George H.W. Bush's White House. These men did almost no original scientific research, yet launched attacks on other scientists' findings and reputations. They were on the wrong side of scientific consensus on every issue they covered publicly. The book explores the implications of this intersection of science and politics and how it has impacted public perception and policy decisions. The deceitful science of Big Tobacco. When the tobacco industry needed to defend against anti-smoking legislation and lawsuits, Seitz and his colleagues were hired to fight science with science. Despite Big Tobacco's own research confirming the dangers of smoking, they formulated a coordinated public relations policy to defend their industry. Seitz and his colleagues distorted their research findings and fought against any new data that emerged, spending over $100 million on biomedical research. The tobacco giants were found guilty of breaking racketeering laws and conspiring to conceal what they knew, while Seitz became the founding chairman of a conservative think tank promoting science for better public policy. Science, ideology, and anti-Soviet hawks. A group of scientists, including Fred Singer and Fred Seitz, teamed up with think tanks and corporations to challenge scientific evidence and promote heavy government spending on weapons. Under the Marshall Institute's auspices, Robert Jastrow launched personal attacks against astronomer Carl Sagan, who opposed the Star Wars defense system. Jastrow's legitimately credentialed scientists presented phony science as a model for future ideological attacks. The right-wing think tanks that supported Seitz's devout anti-communism included the Hoover Institution, the Hudson Institution, and the Heritage Foundation, who sought to wreck the notion of a peaceful détente with Russia. The USSR was cast as far weaker than the US, but Teller and his compatriots disagreed and created a coalition of noted anti-Soviet hawks called Team B. Sagan argued that any atomic weapons battle would lock Earth in a nuclear winter, and produced a report on everything untenable about Star Wars. Acid rain politics. This section from the book explores the politicization of scientific information during the Reagan administration's handling of the acid rain issue. The administration rejected scientific findings and delayed the release of reports to politicize acid rain's effect. The result was a lack of legislation during his tenure. The author illustrates how this pattern is similar to the tobacco industry's decades-long denial of the link between smoking and cancer. The section highlights the success of the strategy of sowing doubt and how it could lead to the rejection of science itself. The battle to save the ozone layer. In the 1970s, scientists discovered that the Earth's protective ozone layer was being damaged by chemicals called chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs. These chemicals were commonly used in spray cans, air conditioners, and refrigerators. The discovery was met with resistance from the aerosol industry, which funded research to disprove any link between CFCs and global warming. However, as evidence mounted, consumers voluntarily started abandoning CFC products. In 1979, a ban on CFCs was enacted, although it only codified what was already in practice. More stringent bans followed as scientific evidence became more conclusive. Despite this success story, conservative and radical free market think tanks continued to deny scientific facts, casting ozone depletion as a conspiracy to acquire more funding for unneeded research. Singer, an advocate for this theory, established a nonprofit to promote his views, aligning himself with former Governor Dixie Lee Ray. Together, they challenged the evidence-backed regulations through media-friendly advocacy. However, despite their efforts to cast doubt, the battle to save the ozone layer proved to be a victory of science over denial. CO2 and the politics of climate change. This summary discusses the political manipulation surrounding the science of climate change during the late 20th century. The National Academy of Sciences Carbon Dioxide Assessment Committee could not agree on a conclusion, leading to separate chapters being authored and signed by individuals. The committee's natural scientists agreed that increased CO2 would cause warming with severe physical and biological effects, while Nirenberg and his allies pushed concocted hypotheses that questioned the cause and duration of any warming. A peer reviewer of the report found it flawed and its conclusions unfounded. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, institutions like the Marshall Institute turned their attention to environmentalism. The institute claimed that most atmospheric warming had occurred prior to 1940, not as a result of industrialization and emissions. Its members, including Nirenberg, continued to attack all reports and commissions on the topic, using media outlets like the New Republic and the Wall Street Journal to cement their influence. The White House and Journal gave credibility to the Marshall Institute's claims, affecting the opinions of millions of citizens, leading to the consequences we now face.
Upon delving into the summary of Erik M. Conway's Merchants of Doubt, readers can learn how the interconnected group of scientists with strong political connections, led by Frederick Seitz and S. Fred Singer, used their positions and affiliations with right-wing think tanks and corporations to distort public debate and deny established scientific consensus. Their strategies, which included twisting scientific research and powerfully mass-communicated misinformation campaigns, reveal the dangerous interplay between corporate interests, politics, and scientific discourse. Analyzing how these men have used such tactics to seed and amplify doubt and confusion around topics like tobacco, acid rain, ozone depletion, and global warming, allows the reader to comprehend the underlying network behind these false narratives, equipping them with valuable knowledge that will help identify and counteract similar future mobilizations of doubt and misinformation.